Writing a story is about more than just telling the story. There's a deeper layer that needs to happen if you want to craft something that will truly engage readers. Many writers, including myself, start out believing that a story is just a recounting of events, a log of happenings, a retelling of exciting times and car chases or whatever. But to truly write a great story, you need to go beyond a simple retelling of events and instead process the meaning behind those events. You need to tell the significance of what happens from both the perspective of the characters and the perspective of your readers. A well-written story doesn't just retell events, it also establishes the meaning and significance behind those events. That's what separates a narrative from just a log of activities. A log of activities, a sequence of events, is just a physical and chemical reaction, a logical series of causes and effects that flow into one another. You do need that for a story. There should be a chain of causality throughout any well-written story. That's what creates a plot, but you can't just rely on that. This is ultimately what drives humans to create stories in the first place. We are blessed, or possibly cursed, with a mind that looks at the world and really desires to see more than just a random confluence of atoms bouncing together. People ask questions like what the meaning of life is. We ponder what happens after death. We attach meaning to symbols, places, people, and experiences. We try to craft narrative around our experiences and our experiences in the world. No other species, except perhaps for the aliens that the government is hiding from us, tells stories. No other species engages in narrative thinking. It is purely a human process. Well, humans and intelligent extraterrestrials, but I digress and may have said too much. Humans love narratives. We crave narratives because it makes the world feel less random. It makes the world feel like it has reason. It makes it feel like there's a purpose behind what is arguably a lot of randomness. If you want to write a good story, you need to satisfy this craving in your reader. And to do that, your writing needs to go beyond just a retelling of events and delve deeper into the meaning and significance behind those events. And that's what this video is going to talk about. There are various things that contribute to this within a story. Theme, I think, is what really gets at the heart of meaning, and it's probably something that most of you watching this have experience with. The theme of a story is this deeper meaning, the layer beyond just the events happening in the story. If the theme of your story is about how absolute power can corrupt anyone, or how perseverance is rewarded, or about how love can conquer anything, then you have a sort of spine, a sort of skeleton around which you can array your plot. You have a direction to point the story in. You have moved beyond just a retelling of events, and there's a deeper narrative meaning that you're trying to convey through the story. A theme, when well executed, adds perspective. It adds judgment. It tries to build a narrative framework around just a sequence of events. It gets at the why something happens. The other way to add meaning to a story, and arguably the most important way, is to have your characters add that meaning themselves by exposing some of that narrative-seeking mental behavior through the characters in your story. When a real person or a well-written fictional character goes through life, they naturally add meaning to all kinds of things that happen to them. They try to process the events that are happening to build a narrative around them. If your boss doesn't nod and say hello to you first thing in the morning, you might think that means you're going to get fired. If you can't sink the three-pointer just as the buzzer goes, then that means you're terrible at basketball. If the cafeteria is serving salmon burgers, it means that lunch is going to suck because salmon burgers are horrible. At least the ones they serve at this cafeteria. And different people, or different well-written characters, can have different reactions to the same event. An optimist will hold out hope, while a pessimist will feel that the world is ending. This can happen because they're on a different side of an event, say the winning versus the losing team, or just because who you are affects how you view events and what meaning you draw from them. It affects how you process these random events and form a narrative around them. The opening scene of Joe Abercrombie's Best Served Cold is a betrayal scene. The main character goes to meet with their employer and ends up being stabbed and thrown off the side of a mountain. This is a sequence of events that happens in that scene, but the character obviously adds all sorts of meaning to it. The betrayal, the growing desire for revenge, the ally turning into an enemy. There's all kinds of feelings that that character, from their perspective of experiencing those events, adds to those events. Everything that happens to a character is going to be colored by that character. They're going to form conclusions and create expectations about what something means and how it affects them. You need to make sure that the reader understands what an event means for a specific character, what narrative that character is building as they process that event. This is based on the backstory of the character, the relationships that character has with other characters, the worldview of that character. Everything that goes into that character is going to affect how they interpret an event. In order to get this across, you need to expose the inside of the character's head. Not literally, although in Best Served Cold it kind of does happen, because I think character thoughts, introspection, body language, anything that gets at what a particular moment in the story is making a character feel. Anything that involves the interiority of the character, what's going on inside their brain as we see them go through the story, will help you get there. You want to write scenes in a way that sort of processes the feelings of the character. This means both expressing those emotions through the story and also focusing on what in the scene is important. What are the most important, meaningful events within that broader event of the scene that draws the character's attention? What are the things they are likely to remember? What are the things that are going to stick with them? If you've gone through a difficult or some kind of formative experience in your own life, there are probably parts of that experience, specific moments or things that you notice or that stuck out to you or that you remember really well. And there's also probably a lot of details of that experience that you have completely forgotten because they weren't important and they didn't have any impact on you. In Best Served Cold's opening, which isn't a cold opening, I don't think anyway. Anyway, in that scene, the main character gets a bunch of gruesome injuries, but their attention is drawn to their right hand, which gets injured quite badly, and that's where a lot of their focus goes. That particular element of that scene gets a lot of that character's attention, and the effects of that moment, both physical and mental, are mentioned and referred back to throughout the entire book. That experience and that particular part of that experience affects and sticks with the character well into the rest of the story. At a broader level, the scenes that you choose to write should be the scenes where events like that happen to the character. We want to see the impactful moments in their lives. This, I think, just kind of makes sense. We don't need to see the character taking the train on the way to their life-defining moments, but we do want to see those life-defining moments. So the scenes you choose to write should be the most impactful scenes. Ultimately, your story should be about explaining why something happened, or at least why your characters think that that something happened. Why those events matter, rather than just telling the reader what those events are. The reader needs to know these events. I hope that's clear. Like, they need to know what happened, so you do have to do that. But to really create an engaging story, you need to go a little bit deeper than that. You need to get to the why, to the meaning, to the processing, to the substance beneath the events. Speaking of substance, the conclusion of this video is not going to have very much substance at all. So there you have it. I'd love to hear what you think about this experience of watching this video in the comments down below. If you want to experience more stuff like this, you can check out all my other writing advice related videos and subscribe to my channel. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time.